Hello, friend. Welcome to Science for Sleep. Whether you are returning tonight or finding this quiet place for the first time, this is a calm space to slow down, learn something gentle, and let the day slowly fall away. Tonight, we are going to follow the long and remarkable evolution of dogs. Not just the story of pets, not just the story of wolves becoming friendly, but the deeper story of how one wild animal slowly changed beside us. Changed in its body, changed in its behavior, changed in the way it looked at human faces, changed in the way it listened to human voices, and even changed in the way it digested the food that came from human hands. A dog resting at the foot of a bed can seem like one of the most ordinary sights in the world. Its paws may twitch softly while it sleeps. Its ears may shift at a small sound in the room. Its breathing may rise and fall in a slow rhythm, warm and steady in the quiet. But hidden inside that peaceful animal is an ancient record. A record that reaches back long before dog parks, leashes, collars, farms, or cities. Some of the oldest known dog remains are more than 14,000 years old. One early dog from Gough's Cave in southwest England dates to around 14,300 years ago. Another ancient dog from Pınarbaşı, in what is now Turkey, dates to around 15,800 years ago. That means dogs were already living near people during the late Ice Age. They were with humans before farming became normal, before wheat fields spread across the land, before sheep, cattle, and horses became part of daily life, before written language held human stories in clay, stone, or ink. And that is what makes the dog's story so strange and so touching. Because the first great animal partnership may not have started with a barn, or a fenced field, or a settled village. It may have started with moving camps, cold nights, hunted animals, leftover bones, and the glow of small fires under Ice Age skies. If you enjoy these quiet journeys, you're welcome to subscribe. And if it feels natural, to leave a comment sharing where you're listening from tonight. It helps others find their way to this calm corner of the world, one sleepy traveler at a time. The quiet continues here, just as it is. The animal we now call the domestic dog has the scientific name Canis lupus familiaris. That name means it belongs within the wider wolf family. The grey wolf is called Canis lupus. So dogs are not strangers to wolves. They are close relatives. But they are not simply wolves with softer manners. A wolf can be trained to tolerate humans. It can learn routines. It can learn commands. But domestication is deeper than training. Domestication means that generation after generation, the animal itself begins to change. The animals that are calmer around humans survive better. The ones that are less likely to panic can feed closer to camp. The ones that are less aggressive can raise young in safer spaces. Over long stretches of time, those small differences can reshape an entire species. This is why the dog beside us today is not only a tamed wild animal. It is the result of selection. Selection means some traits are passed on more often because they help an animal survive and reproduce. In early dogs, those traits may have included lower fear, stronger attention to humans, and a greater ability to live inside a human social world. That social world left marks all over the dog. It helped shape the soft face that looks up from the floor, It helps shape the wagging tail that can turn one small movement into a signal. It helps shape the bark, the whine, the lifted eyebrows, and the habit of watching a human hand for meaning. It even helped shape digestion. Many dogs became better than wolves at using starch, the kind of energy found in roots, grains, and cooked plant foods. This did not make them less related to wolves. It made them something new, something formed at the edge between wild nature and human life. So when a dog sleeps beside a person, it is easy to see only the comfort of the moment, a warm body, a quiet breath, a familiar companion close enough to touch. But that simple scene carries a very old memory. It carries the memory of wolves moving across frozen ground, of humans hunting in small groups, of bones left near campfires, of cautious animals stepping closer night after night, until fear slowly made room for trust. And somewhere in that long, patient change, the first true dogs began to appear. Not all at once, not in a single place that we can point to with perfect certainty, but slowly, through thousands of years of nearness. The story begins with the animal before the dog. A wolf-like creature built for cold air, long travel, sharp senses, and life in a pack. And to understand how dogs became so gentle beside us, we first have to picture what they came from. The animal before the dog belonged to a colder world. During the late Pleistocene, the last part of the Ice Age, much of northern Eurasia was open, dry, and harsh. Eurasia simply means the huge connected landmass of Europe and Asia. Across that land, glaciers covered many northern regions, while farther south, wide grasslands and steppe stretched for enormous distances. A steppe is a mostly treeless grassland, shaped by wind, cold seasons, and grazing animals. This was the world of woolly mammoths, wild horses, reindeer, bison, muskoxen, and cave lions. It was also the world of wolf-like canids. A canid is an animal in the dog family. Foxes, jackals, coyotes, wolves, and dogs all belong to that wider group. Long before any animal could be called a dog, wolf-like hunters were already moving through Ice Age landscapes with strong legs, deep chests, sharp teeth, and noses built for distance. A modern grey wolf can smell scent traces from more than a mile away under good conditions. Its hearing can catch high sounds beyond the range most humans notice. Its paws are wide enough to spread weight across snow, mud, and frozen ground. Its long legs let it travel for hours while using energy carefully. Some wolves today can cover more than 30 miles in a single day when searching for food or moving between territories. In the Ice Age, that ability mattered. Prey animals did not stand waiting in one place. Herds moved with seasons. Carcasses froze, thawed, and disappeared beneath snow or scavengers. A wolf-like animal survived by reading the land through scent, tracks, wind direction, and the behavior of other animals. Its body was shaped for movement. Its mouth was shaped for gripping. Its instincts were shaped for caution. That caution is important because the ancestor of the dog was not a creature looking for comfort. It was an animal tuned to danger. A sudden sound could mean a larger predator nearby. An unfamiliar smell could mean risk. A strange figure on the horizon could mean the safest choice was to leave before getting close. This is one of the quiet differences between the animal sleeping in a warm house tonight and the animal that came before it. A modern dog may lift its head when a person enters the room, blink softly, and settle again. A wild wolf-like canid would have treated a human shape with far more care. Its body would tighten, its ears would shift, its muscles would prepare for distance. Even today, wild wolves usually avoid people when they can. They may watch from cover, circle downwind, or vanish before a human ever sees them clearly. That flight response helped keep them alive. The ancestors of dogs also carried another trait that mattered just as much as caution. They were social. Wolves are often imagined as lonely hunters, but most wolves live in family groups. A typical wolf pack is often made of a breeding pair and their young from 1 or more years. Older offspring may help guard pups, share food, and take part in hunting. The pack is less like a random gang and more like a moving family. Each animal must notice posture, scent marks, facial tension, tail position, and small changes in sound. A low growl, a tucked tail, or a lifted muzzle can change the mood of the group. That social awareness gave wolves a deep skill for reading other living beings. It helped them hunt animals larger than themselves. One wolf might push prey from the side while others follow its weakness. A tired elk, an injured reindeer, or a young bison could become possible food only because the group moved with shared timing. This kind of cooperation requires memory and restraint. It requires an animal to wait, watch, and respond to the movements of others. In that way, the ancient wolf-like canid already had something that made future domestication possible. It understood life in a group. It understood signals. It understood that survival could depend on another body moving nearby. Still, the gap between a wolf-like animal and a dog was enormous. The old animal ranged across large territories. It met the world through hunger and alertness. Its teeth were larger than those of many later dogs. Its skull was longer and built around a powerful bite. Its senses were always sorting the air for danger or opportunity. The modern dog carries many soft versions of those same tools. The nose still searches the ground. The ears still turn toward tiny sounds. The body still responds to movement at the edge of vision. Yet the emotional setting has changed. A dog can rest near human footsteps. A dog can sleep through the sound of dishes in another room. A dog can learn that a hand reaching down may bring food, touch, or safety. That change was not simple. An animal shaped by distance had to become an animal capable of nearness. Somewhere in the Ice Age, around camps, carcasses, and the faint smell of smoke, the distance began to narrow. The narrowing distance mattered because wolves and humans were not random strangers in the Ice Age landscape. They were two species already shaped by group life. A lone wolf could survive for a while, especially by scavenging or hunting smaller prey. But the grey wolf's greatest strength has always come from family cooperation. A pack usually centers around a breeding pair, their pups, and older offspring that have not yet left. Together, they move through a territory that can stretch across many square miles. In open northern landscapes, where snow can hide scent and cold air can carry sound far across the ground, that kind of group structure helps each animal survive. A wolf pack moving over snow is a careful thing to picture. The animals may travel in a loose line to save energy. Their paws fall into pack tracks. Their noses dip toward the ground, then lift toward the wind. One animal may pause when it catches the scent of reindeer, elk, or a carcass left by another predator. The others respond through small changes. A shift in posture, a turn of the head, a tail lowering or lifting, a low sound almost hidden inside the wind. Their communication is often quiet because a hunt depends on timing. Too much noise can warn prey. Too much rush can waste energy. This made wolves very different from many animals humans might have encountered. They already knew how to live by watching one another. They already knew that food could be shared. Adult wolves feed pups by carrying meat in their stomachs and bringing it back to the den. Older pack members may guard young animals while others travel. The pack does not survive through strength alone. It survives through attention. Human hunter-gatherers also lived through attention. During the late Ice Age, people moved across the same broad landscapes with stone tools, hide clothing, fire-making skills, and deep knowledge of animal movement. A small human group tracking reindeer across frozen ground also needed cooperation. One person might notice a fresh hoofprint pressed into snow. Someone else might read the direction of broken grass or scattered hair. Hunters had to understand wind direction because scent could betray them. They had to move quietly enough to approach animals and carefully enough to avoid injury. Large prey could feed many people, but a wounded animal could also be dangerous. This created a strange kind of similarity between humans and wolves. Both species watched herds. Both followed seasonal movement. Both used memory to return to places where animals crossed rivers, sheltered from wind, or gathered near water. Each species also depended on young animals surviving long enough to learn. Human children needed care for many years. Wolf pups also required long protection before they could hunt well. A wolf pup begins life blind and helpless in a den. Its eyes open after roughly 10 to 14 days. For weeks, it depends completely on milk, warmth, and protection. By the time young wolves begin following adults farther from the den, they are learning more than movement. They are learning the rules of the group. Human children learned in their own way by watching hands chip stone, scrape hides, prepare food, and tend fire. Both species passed survival through behavior as much as through instinct. That shared dependence on learning created an important foundation. Wolves could understand social signals because their own lives required them. Humans could notice animal behavior because their own survival often depended on reading tracks, posture, and movement. When these two kinds of intelligence cross paths, each side had some way to make sense of the other. A wolf, watching humans from a distance, may not have understood human life, but it could read movement, mood, danger, and food. A human watching wolves near a carcass may not have seen a future pet, but could notice patience, coordination, and caution. Across a snowy plain, the two groups might have looked oddly similar from far away. A wolf pack following the scent of prey. A human hunting group following tracks with tools in hand. Both moving across the same white ground. Both shaped by hunger, weather, family, and memory. The difference was in the boundary between them. Humans carried fire, blades, language, and culture. Wolves carried teeth, scent, speed, and the old discipline of the pack. For a long time, those worlds likely stayed apart. The safest wolf kept distance. The safest human treated the wolf with care. Yet overlap has a way of creating habits. The same herds drew both species into the same valleys. The same carcasses fed both mouths. The same winter nights gathered scent, smoke, bone, and hunger near the edges of human camps. A wolf did not need to become gentle all at once. It only needed to stand a little closer than another wolf and leave a little later when humans moved nearby. Shared life may have begun in the places where food left a trace. An Ice Age camp was never perfectly clean. After a successful hunt, people had to butcher large animals with stone tools, scrape hides, crack bones, cut tendons, and divide meat into portions that could be eaten, dried, carried, or shared. Even a careful group would leave fragments behind. Small bones could scatter near the edge of camp. Fat might cling to a broken joint. A strip of meat could remain on a hide. Ash from a hearth could mix with blood, hair, and trampled snow. To a wolf like Canid, these traces would have been easy to notice. The scent of fat is strong. Marrow inside long bones is rich in calories. A camp where humans had processed reindeer, wild horse, bison, or mammoth could smell like food long after the people had finished eating. For an animal living in winter cold, this mattered. Hunting costs energy. Chasing prey across frozen ground can take miles of movement. A wolf may run, stop, circle, test the herd, and still fail. Modern wolves often make several attempts before a hunt succeeds. Large prey can kick, gore, or crush a predator that comes too close. A half-cleaned bone near a human camp carried risk too, but it also carried reward. The first animals that came near would have needed a careful balance. Too bold, and they might approach while humans were awake and dangerous. Too fearful, and they would lose the food to ravens, foxes, hyenas, or other wolves. Somewhere between those extremes were the animals that could wait. A cautious wolf might stand beyond the glow of the fire, where the light became thin and the snow returned to grey. Its ears would turn toward human voices. Its nose would lift when smoke shifted with the wind. Its paws might press quietly into old tracks near the camp boundary. If a person moved suddenly, it could back away. If the camp settled and grew quiet, it could step closer. Those small distances matter in evolution. A wolf that stayed 50 paces away had a different chance than one that fled at the first human smell. A wolf that could feed from leftovers without being killed gained calories at a lower cost. Over time, those calories could mean better survival in lean months. They could mean a female had enough energy to carry pups. They could mean young animals lived through a hard season when prey was scarce. No one had to plan this. The camp itself became a filter. Human presence sorted the animals around it. The most frightened wolves remained far from the smoke. The most aggressive wolves were more likely to be driven away or killed. The ones that could stay calm at a useful distance had access to something new. Food created the first thread. fire may have shaped that thread even more. Humans had controlled fire for a very long time by this point, and by the late Ice Age, hearths were central to daily life. A hearth meant warmth, cooked food, light, and protection from darkness. It also meant smells that traveled. Burned bone has a different scent from raw bone. Cooked meat releases fat into the air. Smoke can cling to hides, hair, tools, and the ground itself. A wolf-like animal approaching such a place would have met a strange mixture of danger and nourishment. The fire marked the human world, and the scraps around it marked opportunity. At first, humans may have tolerated only the least troublesome animals. A wolf that growled too close to children would be unsafe. A wolf that stole food from hands would be chased away. A wolf that waited quietly beyond the camp edge might be ignored. That simple difference could become powerful when repeated for many generations. Living near humans did not require the animal to understand humans the way a modern dog does. It only required a body that could handle nearness without panic. A lower stress response would help. A slower flight reaction would help. A calmer nature around strange sounds, smoke, tools, and moving people would help. Each useful trait could make the camp a little easier to approach. The change would have been almost invisible at first. A few animals feeding near human waste. A few pups growing up with the smell of smoke in the air. A few wolves learning that human camps could be dangerous, yet also predictable. The wild landscape still stretched outward in every direction, with herds moving across open ground and cold wind pressing over the steppe. Near the fire, a new environment had appeared. It was made from bones, ash, scent, warmth, and human routine. For the wolves that could live beside it, survival began to follow different rules. Near the edge of a camp, survival began to depend on a very small difference. Some wolves would smell humans and vanish. Others might hold their ground for a moment longer. That pause could matter. In animal behavior, there is a useful idea called flight distance. Flight distance means the space an animal keeps between itself and a possible threat before it decides to run. A wild deer feeding in a field may lift its head when a person appears far away. If the person keeps walking closer, the deer eventually crosses an invisible line and bolts. Wolves have their own version of that line. For most wild wolves, humans sit far inside the danger category. A strange human shape, a tool in the hand, the smell of smoke, or a loud voice can push the animal away before close contact ever happens. The earliest dog-like wolves may have had a slightly shorter flight distance. They still would have been alert. Their ears still would have turned toward every sound. Their bodies still would have been ready to leave. Yet they could remain near the camp long enough to feed from what humans left behind. That kind of calmness would have been valuable. A wolf that panicked too quickly lost access to scraps. A wolf that charged too boldly became a threat. The useful space was somewhere in between, where caution stayed present and fear softened just enough. Over many generations, this middle space could begin to shape a new kind of animal. This process is often called self-selection. Self-selection means animals with certain traits place themselves in a new environment and gain an advantage there. Humans may not have needed to capture the first wolves or decide to create dogs. The camp itself may have rewarded the animals that could handle being near people. those animals would gain food with less risk than a full hunt. A marrow-rich bone, a strip of hide with fat still attached, or pieces of cooked meat could provide energy without chasing reindeer across miles of frozen ground. Winter would make those rewards even more important. When snow-covered grasses and herds moved away, any steady food source could help an animal survive. Lower fear also helped reproduction. A calmer female that fed near humans might enter spring with better body condition. Body condition means the amount of stored fat, muscle, and general health an animal has after a difficult season. Better condition can affect whether she carries pups successfully. It can also affect how much milk she produces and how well her young survive. Her pups would grow up close to the sounds and smells of human life. They would hear voices, stone tools striking, wood cracking in fires, and footsteps moving over packed ground. Those pups would still be wild in many ways. They would still bite, chase, wrestle, and test the world through scent. But their earliest surroundings would include humans as part of the landscape. That changes what feels normal. A pup raised near smoke and voices may become less startled by them than a pup born far from camp. If that pup also inherited a slightly calmer nature, the advantage could deepen. The change did not require a perfect plan. Natural selection can work through small differences that repeat. A little more tolerance, a little less aggression, a little more ability to wait near people without panic. Each trait could help an animal remain near a food source that other wolves avoided. Over time, the animals closest to human camps may have begun forming a loose population of their own. They would still look wolf-like. Their skulls, teeth, legs, and coats may have remained close to those of wild wolves for a long stretch of time. The deeper difference would have been inside their behavior. A wolf living far from humans would meet the world through distance. A camp-following wolf would meet part of the world through nearness. That shift was quiet, yet enormous. The first dog-like animals may have approached the human world before the human world fully invited them in. They came because food was there. They stayed because their bodies could bear the closeness. From that point forward, human presence became more than a danger to avoid. It became a pressure that could favor calmer nerves, softer reactions, and a growing ability to live near another species. The old wall of fear did not fall in a single moment. It thinned slowly, one cautious animal at a time. As fear thinned near human camps, a deeper kind of change became possible. It helps to separate two ideas that can sound similar. Training is something that happens during one animal's life. Domestication is a change that builds across many generations. A wolf raised by humans can learn routines. It can learn to come when called, take food from a hand, or walk beside a person it knows. With enough care, a young wolf can become familiar with human voices, clothing, tools, and household sounds. Yet that wolf still carries the full inheritance of a wild animal. Its caution is strong. Its independence is strong. Its reactions can sharpen quickly when it feels trapped, surprised, or challenged. Domestication reaches further down than habit. It changes what young animals are born prepared to notice, tolerate, and seek. In dogs, that change shows up early. A puppy only a few weeks old may crawl toward a human voice. It may watch a hand move across the floor. It may seek warmth contact, and attention from people before much formal training has happened. Those early responses are part of what makes dogs so unusual. They enter the world already leaning toward human social life. The difference can be seen by comparing dogs with wolves raised under human care. Wolf pups can bond with caretakers, especially when handled from a very young age. They can become familiar and affectionate with people they know. Still, as they mature, many become more cautious, more intense around food, more likely to test boundaries, and less naturally focused on human signals. Their wild development begins to assert itself. The body follows an old plan. A domestic dog matures along a different path. Many dogs remain socially flexible for far longer. They often keep playful behaviors into adulthood. They look back toward people when confused. They respond to praise, tone of voice, pointing, and daily routine with unusual ease. This does not mean every dog is easy. Dogs vary widely by breed, history, and individual temperament. A livestock guardian, a sled dog, a terrier, and a toy spaniel can all show very different instincts. Yet beneath that variety is a shared domesticated foundation. Their nervous systems are generally more able to live close to humans than the nervous system of a wolf. The nervous system is the body's communication network. It includes the brain, spinal cord, and nerves that carry signals through the body. When an animal senses danger, this system can raise heart rate, tighten muscles, release stress hormones, and prepare the body to flee or fight. In a wolf-like animal, that response helps survival across open land. Near humans, a lower stress response could become useful. The animal that could hear a child laugh, smell smoke, see moving hands, and still stay calm, had more chances to remain near food. Those calmer animals were more likely to pass on their traits. Over long stretches of time, selection would favor young animals whose bodies treated human nearness as less threatening. This is the quiet power of domestication. It does not need a single dramatic moment. It can work through small differences in development. The age when fear appears, the strength of the stress response, the length of playful behavior, the pull toward social contact. Scientists have seen a simple version of this process in silver foxes. Beginning in the 20th century, researchers in Russia bred foxes by choosing only the animals that were calmest around humans. Within generations, some foxes began wagging their tails, seeking human attention, and showing softer reactions to people. Their bodies also began to change in visible ways, with altered coat patterns, floppier ears in some animals, and more dog-like behavior. The foxes were still foxes. Their experiments showed how strongly selection for tameness can affect an animal's whole development. Something similar, spread across thousands of years instead of a laboratory breeding program, may have helped turn wolf-like canids toward dogs. The earliest dog-like animals were shaped by repeated survival near humans. Each generation carried slightly more tolerance. Young animals grew up closer to smoke, voices, footsteps, and scraps. The social world around them pressed gently on the way their bodies developed. A wolf can learn from a human. A dog is born with a much older invitation already written into its behavior. Once selection reached development itself, the transformation could begin showing on the outside, in the face, the ears, the tail, and the softer outline of the animal beside the fire. Once selection reached the way young animals developed, the changes could begin to show in places a person could see. The first shift may have been emotional. A calmer animal could stay near camp. A less reactive animal could feed near humans without spending all its energy on alarm. Over enough generations, that softer fear response may have touched the body itself. Scientists sometimes call this pattern domestication syndrome. It means that several domesticated mammals tend to show a similar cluster of traits after people begin selecting for calmer behavior. These traits can include shorter faces, smaller teeth, floppy ears, curled tails, white patches in the coat, smaller brains compared with wild ancestors, and changes in when the animal can reproduce. The pattern does not appear in the exact same way in every species. Still, it shows up often enough in animals like dogs, pigs, horses, rabbits, cattle, goats, and domesticated foxes that it has become one of the most interesting clues in the study of domestication. A wolf carries a very alert shape. The ears stand upright and turn easily toward distant sound. The muzzle is long. The teeth are built for gripping and cutting flesh. The body is lean, strong, and made for travel across wide territories. Even the face seems organized around caution. A wolf watches carefully before it acts, because the wild rewards animals that notice danger early. Many dogs carry a gentler version of that older design. Some still look close to wolves, especially northern breeds with pointed ears, thick coats, and long muzzles. Others show changes that would have been rare or costly in the wild. A beagle's drooping ears, a spaniel's soft face, a border collie's white blaze, a pug's short muzzle, a curled tail resting over the back of a Spitz-type dog. These features did not all appear at the same time, and many were shaped much later by human breeding. Yet they help show how far the dog body could move once it began living under human selection. One possible reason involves cells called neural crest cells. These are early cells in an embryo, which is a developing animal before birth. Neural crest cells help form many parts of the body, including parts of the skull, teeth, ears, pigment cells, and the adrenal glands. The adrenal glands sit near the kidneys and help produce stress hormones, including adrenaline. Adrenaline helps the body react to danger by raising heart rate and preparing muscles for action. If selection favored animals with a calmer stress response, it may have affected systems connected to these early developing cells. That could help explain why behavior, face shape, coat color, ears, and stress hormones sometimes change together. This idea is still studied and debated, but it gives a simple way to picture the connection. A change that begins in fear can ripple through development. The Russian silver fox experiment made this connection easier to see. Beginning in 1959, researchers chose foxes only for how calmly they responded to humans. They did not choose them for coat color, ear shape, or tail position. After several generations, some foxes began acting in more dog-like ways. They approached people, wagged their tails, whimpered for attention, and showed less fear. Physical changes also appeared. Some had white patches. Some had floppier ears. Some showed curled tails. Their breeding cycles also shifted. Wild foxes usually breed once a year in a narrow season, while some tame foxes became capable of breeding over a longer part of the year. Dogs show a related contrast with wolves. Most female wolves come into heat once each year, timed so pups are born when food is more available. Many domestic dogs can come into heat about twice a year, though timing varies by breed, body size, and individual animal. That difference matters because reproduction itself became part of life near humans. Animals that could raise young successfully around camps had more chances to pass their traits forward. The ancient dog did not need to look like a modern pet at first. The earliest changes may have been subtle: a slightly shorter face, a softer reaction to human movement, a coat patch that would have stood out in a wild pack, an ear that folded a little as the animal matured. Small signs like these could gather over time. Temperament had begun to leave a visible trace. The guarded wolf-like body was slowly becoming a body shaped for nearness, and the face would become one of the clearest places to see that change. The face became one of the clearest places where domestication left its mark. A wolf skull is built around distance, scent, and force. The muzzle stretches forward in a long wedge. The nasal cavity, the open space inside the nose, gives room for scent-rich air to pass over sensitive tissue. The cheekbones and jaw muscles support a strong bite. The teeth are large, especially the canine teeth, and the slicing teeth near the back of the mouth. Those back teeth are called carnassials. They work almost like shears, helping a wolf cut meat and tough tissue into pieces it can swallow. In a grey wolf, the skull is usually long and fairly narrow compared with many domestic dogs. The forehead slopes smoothly into the muzzle. The ears sit high. The whole head looks alert, balanced, and made for life where caution and hunting skill matter every day. Early dogs would not have changed all at once. The oldest dog-like skulls found by archaeologists can be difficult to separate from wolf skulls because the difference was gradual. Researchers often look for a mix of signs: a shorter snout, a smaller jaw, teeth that are more crowded because the face has shortened, a wider forehead, a skull shape that begins to drift away from the long, clean outline of a wild wolf. Even small changes like these can matter. When the muzzle shortens, the teeth may no longer fit with the same spacing. When the skull becomes slightly smaller, the chewing muscles may attach at different angles. When the forehead rises, the face can look more expressive to human eyes. Across thousands of years, the dog skull became one of the most flexible shapes in the mammal world. A wolf and a husky may still look related at a glance. A wolf and a greyhound share the long nose shape built for movement and deep breathing. Yet a wolf beside a bulldog, a pug, or a King Charles Spaniel shows how far human selection eventually pushed the dog's head. Some dogs are long-skulled, with narrow faces and extended muzzles. These are sometimes called dolichocephalic dogs, meaning long-headed. Greyhounds, Afghan hounds, and borzois are familiar examples. Their heads still carry an echo of speed, open airways, and a face stretched forward. Other dogs are short-skulled, with wide heads and compressed muzzles. These are called brachycephalic dogs, meaning short-headed. Pugs, bulldogs, and some mastiff-type breeds show this form. Between those extremes are many middle-shaped dogs, such as Labradors, Beagles, Shepherds, and spaniels. This range is much wider than anything seen in wild wolves. It shows how strongly domestication opened the door for variety. Natural selection shaped wolves around survival in the wild. Human selection later shaped dogs around many different human needs. Some dogs needed a long nose to follow scent across fields. Bloodhounds, for example, became famous for tracking human scent trails over long distances. Their loose skin and long ears help stir scent particles near the face as they move along the ground. Other dogs were shaped for guarding, pulling, herding, retrieving, or sitting close to people in small homes. Each job placed different pressure on the body. The skull followed those pressures. A herding dog benefits from a head that supports clear vision, quick movement, and focused attention. A retriever needs a mouth shaped to carry birds gently. A companion breed may have been favored for a rounded face and softer expression. Long after the first camp-following wolves began changing, human preference turned the dog skull into a living map of work, place, and taste. The teeth changed as well. Compared with wolves, many dogs have smaller teeth and less room in the jaw. In short-faced breeds, teeth can crowd together because the muzzle became shorter faster than the number of teeth changed. An adult dog still usually has 42 teeth, the same total often listed for wolves. The shape around those teeth, however, can be very different. That difference tells a quiet story. The old wolf face was shaped by hunting, distance, and the pressure of the wild. The dog face gradually became shaped by nearness to humans, by jobs given to it, and by the expressions people noticed. A face that changed in bone and tooth also changed in meaning. The muzzle, eyes, brow, and mouth were becoming easier for humans to read, and that readability would become one of the most powerful parts of the bond. As the face became easier for humans to read, another change settled into the dog's whole way of living. Many dogs carried pieces of puppyhood forward into adult life. Scientists often describe this with the word paedomorphism. Paedomorphism means an adult animal keeps traits that usually belong to the young. In dogs, this can appear in the shape of the face, the timing of development, and the way the animal behaves around others. A puppy has a rounder look than an adult wolf. Its muzzle is shorter. Its forehead is more raised. Its eyes seem larger in relation to the face. Its movements are loose, playful, and socially open. As wolves mature, many of those early traits fade. A young wolf pup may wrestle with littermates, lick the mouths of adults for food, and approach familiar pack members with soft, excited signals. By adulthood, the animal becomes more guarded. Its social life remains rich, but it is also shaped by territory, breeding, hunting, and the need to avoid danger. A domestic dog often keeps more of that early openness. Even a full-grown dog may bow down with its front legs stretched forward and its rear lifted high. This is called a playbow. It is a clear signal that the chase, pounce, or gentle bite that follows is meant as play. Wolves use playbows too, especially when young. But many dogs use playful signals throughout life with unusual frequency. A 7-year-old Labrador may still bring a toy to a person. A terrier may toss a ball into the air for its own amusement. A border collie may crouch low, stare at a moving object, then spring into motion with puppy-like excitement. These behaviors are shaped by breed, training, and daily life. But the larger pattern is deeply tied to domestication. Dogs remain socially flexible. They can bond with humans, other dogs, cats, livestock, and sometimes animals far outside their own species. That flexibility would have helped early dogs survive in human spaces filled with children, tools, fires, hides, stored food, and shifting routines. A wild wolf reaches a stage where independence becomes vital. Young wolves often leave their birth pack when they mature, sometimes traveling many miles to find territory or a mate. Biologists call this dispersal. Dispersal helps wolves avoid crowding and spreads their genes into new areas. For an animal living near humans, strong dispersal could pull it away from the camp and back into the wider wild. A more dog-like animal, with a longer lasting attachment to people and place, could remain close. That staying power mattered. A camp-following animal had to accept repeated human contact. It had to sleep near movement. It had to hear voices and wake without panic. It had to watch people come and go while still treating the camp as familiar. Juvenile traits help make that possible. Playfulness builds bonds. Curiosity helps an animal learn local routines. Social dependence keeps it near the group that feeds and protects it. A softer face may also have changed how humans reacted. Humans are highly responsive to young-looking features. Large-looking eyes, rounded faces, and gentle movements often draw care from people. This response appears strongly with human babies, and it can extend to animals. A puppy-like dog may have been easier to tolerate, easier to feed, and easier to protect. Over time, human attention could favor animals that seemed less threatening and more emotionally readable. This does not mean every dog stayed puppy-like in the same way. A livestock guardian can be calm, serious, and independent. A sled dog can be hardy and driven. A scent hound may seem gentle but stubborn when following a trail. Still, compared with wolves, dogs as a group tend to remain more open to human guidance and social contact across adulthood. The puppy that stayed is one of the quietest miracles in the dog's evolution. Inside the adult body remained a readiness to play, follow, learn, and return. The old wolf inheritance was still there in the teeth, nose, and movement. A new layer had formed around it, softening the animal's relationship with human life. Once that softness reached the face, the gaze itself began to change. The dog was becoming an animal that could look toward a human and hold the look long enough for meaning to pass between them. That held gaze became one of the most unusual parts of the dog's evolution. A wolf can look directly at a person. The stare may feel sharp, steady, and full of caution. In wild canids, direct eye contact can carry tension, especially when two animals do not know each other well. A long stare can signal challenge. A quick glance can help measure distance. A turned head can lower pressure. For animals built around survival, the eyes are part of the body's warning system. Dogs changed that old signal into something softer. Many domestic dogs can look into a human face for guidance, comfort, or attention. A dog may glance from a closed door to a person's hand. It may look toward a bowl, then back toward a human face. During training, a dog often checks the eyes and posture of the person nearby, searching for meaning in tiny movements. That habit reaches far beyond simple obedience. It shows how deeply dogs entered the human social world. The muscles around the eyes change too. One small muscle above the inner corner of the eye helps lift the inner eyebrow. In scientific terms, this muscle is often called the levator anguli oculi medialis. The name is long, though the action is easy to picture. It pulls the inner eyebrow upward, making the eye look larger, rounder, and more open. This movement creates the expression many people call puppy eyes. In wolves, this same muscle is usually much less developed. Some wolves have only a few muscle fibers in that area. Many dogs have a clearer, stronger version of it, allowing a more noticeable eyebrow lift. That difference matters because humans are extremely sensitive to faces. A small shift above the eye can change the whole feeling of an expression. When the inner brow rises, the face can seem worried, gentle, or asking. The eyes appear slightly larger. The upper face becomes easier to read. For a human looking down at a dog near a fire, inside a shelter, or beside a doorway, that expression could invite care. A dog that looked more readable may have received more food, more protection, or more patience. Over many generations, human response could help shape the dog's face. This does not mean dogs planned the expression. Evolution works through results. A young animal with a softer, more readable gaze may have been easier for humans to tolerate. A calmer adult with expressive eyes may have been easier to keep near camp. Small advantages like that can become meaningful when repeated across thousands of years. The gaze itself also works differently in dogs than in wolves. A wolf may avoid long eye contact with humans unless it has been raised carefully around them. Even then, its attention often moves back toward its own choices, its own space, and its own assessment of risk. A dog often treats the human face as a source of information. The eyes can become a place where the animal checks what to do. This is why a dog may look back when it cannot open a container, reach a toy, or understand a barrier. Instead of solving the problem alone, it may bring the human into the moment. That behavior is rare in the animal world. Many intelligent animals can solve physical problems. Dogs became especially skilled at social problems involving people. A dog's face can gather several signals at once. The brow can lift. The ears can shift. The mouth can relax. The head can tilt slightly toward a voice. A person may read all of this almost instantly, without needing to think through each part. The dog becomes legible. Legible means easy to read. That simple readability may have helped the bond deepen. The ancient wolf-like body had already begun changing through fear, nearness, and repeated life around humans. Now the face was becoming a living surface of communication. The old predator's stare had softened into a gaze that could ask, wait, and respond. Somewhere in that change, humans stopped seeing only a cautious animal near camp. They began seeing an animal that seemed to look back with expectation. Once the eyes could carry meaning, the next step was the rest of the human body. A raised hand, a pointed finger, a turned shoulder, or a quiet step could become information a dog was ready to follow. A raised hand could become a message. For humans, pointing feels simple. A finger stretches toward a door. a dropped object, a trail, or a bowl on the floor. Another person follows the line without thinking much about it. The gesture works because human beings understand that a hand can stand for something beyond itself. It can direct attention toward a place. It can show where food is hidden. It can warn someone to look across a field. For dogs, learning this gesture became one of the clearest signs that domestication shaped more than fear. A young puppy can often follow a human point, even before long training has taken place. If a person hides food under one of two cups, then points to the correct cup, many dog puppies will move toward the indicated spot. They are not smelling the food every time. They are reading the human body. Their eyes move from the hand to the object. Their body follows the line. This ability seems simple in a living room, yet it is rare when compared with many other animals. Even chimpanzees, our close relatives, do not always use human pointing as naturally as dogs do. Wolves can learn from humans too, especially when raised carefully from a very young age. A wolf pup, bottle-fed by people, can become familiar with human touch, voice, and routine. It may recognize caretakers and show attachment to them. Yet in many tests, wolf pups tend to rely more on their own investigation. They may sniff, search, push, or solve the problem directly. A dog puppy is more likely to look toward the person and use the gesture as useful information. That difference suggests that dogs were shaped to notice human intention. Intention means the purpose behind an action. When a person points, the dog does not need to understand language in a human way. It only needs to grasp that the gesture connects the person, the hand, and something in the world. This is a powerful bridge between species. A dog can follow a person's gaze. It can respond to the tone of a voice. It can notice whether a human body is relaxed, tense, turned away, or inviting contact. Some dogs even respond differently when a person is watching them compared with when the person's back is turned. That shows sensitivity to attention. The dog is not simply reacting to movement. It is tracking the social situation. This skill likely became useful very early. Around a camp, human hands were always doing important things. Hands cut meat with stone blades. Hands carried bones away from the fire. Hands threw scraps. Hands lifted spears, packed hides, held children, and pushed animals away from danger. For a wolf-like animal living near humans, understanding hands could be the difference between safety and risk. A thrown object might mean threat. An open palm might mean food. A lowered hand might become an invitation to approach. The animals that read these signals more accurately could make better choices. They could stay near without crossing dangerous lines. They could feed without provoking fear. They could move with human routines instead of constantly colliding with them. A modern dog still shows this ancient skill in ordinary ways. A person reaches for a leash and the dog moves toward the door. A hand touches a treat pouch and the dog's ears shift. A finger points toward a toy under a chair, and the dog bends its head to search there. A quiet glance toward a bed may be enough for a trained dog to settle. The human body becomes a map of small signals. Dogs read that map with a patience that feels almost natural to us, because the partnership is so familiar. Yet this was a remarkable evolutionary turn. A wild predator once shaped by distance became an animal that could take guidance from another species. The change did not require speech. It grew through gesture, repetition, reward, and trust. A hand that once might have meant danger could become a source of direction. A pointed finger could lead to food. A turned shoulder could guide movement. A still palm could ask for calm. Once dogs began reading human signals this closely, nearness became cooperation. The animal at the edge of the camp was no longer only watching for scraps. It was beginning to move with human meaning, and soon its own body would become a set of signals humans could read in return. Once dogs learned to read the human hand, their own bodies became easier for humans to read as well. A dog communicates with more than its voice. The tail, ears, face, shoulders, back, mouth, and whole posture can all carry meaning. A relaxed dog may move with loose muscles and a gently swinging tail. A worried dog may lower its body, pull its ears back, close its mouth, or tuck its tail near its belly. An excited dog may bounce forward, lift its head, and make quick movements that seem to fill the space around it. These signals are familiar now because people have lived with dogs for so long. Still, they come from older canid language. Wolves also use posture, facial tension, tail height, scent, growls, whines, and howls to communicate with one another. A high tail can signal confidence. A lowered tail can reduce tension. Flattened ears can show fear or submission. Raised hackles, the stiff hair along the back, can appear when an animal is highly alert. In a wolf pack, these signals help family members avoid unnecessary fights. They help pups understand adults. They help hunters coordinate during movement and rest. Domestic dogs inherited that body language, then carried it into a human world. Over time, some of the signals became more noticeable. A dog's tail is one of the clearest examples. Tail wagging is often treated as a simple sign of happiness, though the real meaning is broader. A wagging tail usually means the dog is emotionally stirred up. The feeling may be friendly excitement, uncertainty, tension, or strong interest. The rest of the body explains the signal. A loose wag with soft eyes and relaxed muscles feels very different from a stiff, high wag with a frozen body. Humans became good at noticing this movement because it is large, rhythmic, and easy to see from a distance. Rhythmic means repeating in a steady pattern. A moving tail can catch the human eye even in low light, near a doorway, beside a fire, or across a yard. Some scientists have suggested that tail wagging may have become more common or more exaggerated during domestication because humans responded to it. Another idea is that wagging increased as a side effect of selecting calmer, more social animals. Both ideas point in the same gentle direction. As dogs became easier to live with, their bodies became more expressive around people. There are even subtle differences in how dogs wag. Studies have found that some dogs wag more toward the right side when seeing something positive, such as a familiar person, and more toward the left side when facing something uncertain or stressful. A human may never notice that detail in daily life. Another dog might read it more clearly. This reminds us that dog signals work in two directions. They speak to humans, and they still speak to other dogs. Barking also changed in a noticeable way. Adult wolves can bark, but they use barking less often than domestic dogs. Wolves rely heavily on howls, scent marks, facial signals, and body posture across their social lives. Dogs bark in many situations. A dog may bark when someone knocks, when a squirrel crosses a fence, when play begins, or when it feels alone. The bark became a flexible sound in the human environment. It could warn, request, protest, invite, or express excitement. Humans also learned to interpret many of these sounds. A sharp alarm bark feels different from a playful bark. A long whine near a door feels different from a low growl near a food bowl. The dog's face added another layer. A lifted brow, soft mouth, head tilt, or quick glance back at a person can change the meaning of the whole moment. Ear shape affects this too. A prick-eared dog, like a husky or German shepherd, can rotate its ears in clear, visible ways. A floppy-eared dog, like a spaniel or basset hound, may use smaller head movements and facial cues instead. Even breed shape changes the style of communication. A curled tail, a docked tail, a heavy coat, or a flat face can make some signals easier or harder to see. Humans shaped dog bodies, then had to keep learning how those bodies spoke. By this point in the story, the old wolf-like animal had changed in fear, face, gaze, gesture reading, sound, and movement. Its whole body was becoming a bridge between two species. Yet life beside humans changed something even more basic than signals. An animal that stayed near camp did not eat only like a wolf anymore. Its meals began to come from bones, scraps, cooked food, and eventually the starchy leftovers of human life. Food carried the partnership deeper into the body. A wolf's diet is built around animals. Meat, fat, organs, skin, and bone all matter in a wild canid's life. A grey wolf may eat deer, elk, reindeer, wild boar, hare, beaver, fish, or whatever carrion it can safely claim. Carrion means dead animal flesh found rather than hunted. When a pack brings down a large animal, the meal can be rich, yet uncertain. There may be days of plenty, followed by days of hunger. A wolf's digestive system is well suited for that rhythm. Its stomach can handle large meals. Its teeth can cut hide and muscle. Its jaws can crack smaller bones. Its gut is built for a diet where animal tissue supplies most of the energy. Life near humans began adding different foods to that old pattern. At first, the change may have been simple. A wolf-like animal near a camp might find split bones, burned scraps, pieces of cooked meat, old hides, or fat left on joints. Cooking changes food. Heat softens tissue, breaks down some tough fibers, and makes certain nutrients easier to use. A roasted bone with marrow still inside would smell different from a raw carcass on frozen ground. A scrap touched by smoke or ash would carry the scent of the human camp itself. Over time, the food world around humans widened. In hunter-gatherer camps, dogs may have eaten leftovers from hunted animals, fish, shellfish, roots, berries, and cooked plant foods when available. Later, after agriculture spread, the change became much larger. Agriculture means growing plants and raising animals for food. In parts of Southwest Asia, farming began more than 10,000 years ago. people started cultivating wheat, barley, lentils, peas, and other crops. Stored grain, cooked porridge, bread-like foods, and plant leftovers became more common around human homes. For dogs living near these communities, the menu changed again. Their meals were no longer shaped only by prey. They were shaped by the human habit of gathering, grinding, cooking, storing, spilling, and sharing food. One of the clearest clues appears in starch digestion. Starch is a type of stored plant energy. It is found in foods like grains, roots, and tubers. To use starch well, the body needs enzymes. An enzyme is a tiny biological tool that helps chemical reactions happen. One important enzyme is amylase. Amylase helps break starch into smaller sugars the body can absorb. Many dogs carry extra copies of a gene called AMY2B. A gene is a set of instructions inside DNA. AMY2B helps make pancreatic amylase, which works in the small intestine after food leaves the stomach. Compared with wolves, many dogs have more copies of this gene, though the number can vary among dog populations. More copies can mean a stronger ability to digest starchy foods. This does not mean dogs became plant eaters. Dogs remain members of the canid family, with teeth, senses, and behavior still tied to animal food. The starch adaptation shows that living with humans changed the kinds of energy many dogs could use. A camp-following animal that handled scraps well had an advantage. A village dog that could digest cooked grain or leftover porridge had an even stronger advantage. Human food became a new pressure on dog evolution. The change also helps explain why dog domestication was a long process with several layers. Early dogs likely began beside hunter-gatherers before farming. Their first food changes may have centered on meat scraps, bones, and cooked leftovers. Later, farming societies added more starch to the human diet, and some dog populations adapted further. The dog's stomach became a quiet record of those stages. Inside its genes were traces of the campfire, the hunting ground, the grinding stone, and the storage pit. A modern dog eating from a bowl may seem far removed from that ancient world. Yet the body still carries the story. The nose searches for food with wolf-like intensity. The stomach receives meals shaped by human routine. The genes remember a long history of leftovers. Food did more than keep early dogs alive near people. It tied their survival to human habits, human tools, and human movement. That makes the oldest dog story even more interesting, because the first dogs seemed to appear before the full farming world arrived. Their beginning belongs to people who are still moving through Ice Age landscapes, carrying their lives from camp to camp. Those moving camps matter because the oldest dog story reaches deeper than the first farms. For a long time, it was easy to picture domestication beginning beside settled villages. The idea made sense. A village produces regular waste. Grain spills near storage pits. Cooked food scraps gather near hearths. People stay in one place long enough for animals to learn the routine. In that picture, wolves drift closer to human settlements, feed from refuse, and slowly become dogs. That may explain part of the later story. Farming did give dogs new foods, new roles, and new reasons to stay close to people. Yet the earliest evidence points to an older beginning. Dogs appear in the record before agriculture became the center of human life. In Southwest Asia, farming began to spread after roughly 11,700 years ago, near the start of the Holocene, the warmer period that followed the last ice age. People began cultivating plants like wheat and barley, storing harvests and living in more permanent settlements. By then, dogs already seem to have been present. One important early dog comes from Pınarbaşı, an archaeological site in central Turkey. Its remains date to around 15,800 years ago. That places it in a world of hunter-gatherers, long before the full farming villages of the Neolithic period. The Neolithic was the age when farming, herding, pottery, and more settled life began spreading through many regions. Another early dog comes from Gough's Cave in southwest England, in the limestone cliffs of Cheddar Gorge. That animal dates to around 14,300 years ago. Gough's Cave was used by late Ice Age people in a cool landscape very different from modern Britain. At that time, sea levels were lower. Parts of what is now the North Sea were dry land. Reindeer, wild horses, red deer, and other cold-adapted animals moved through open habitats. A dog in that setting was living with people who still followed seasonal resources. These dates are important because they place early dogs across Western Eurasia before farming took hold. Pınarbaşı and Gough's Cave are far apart. One sits in Anatolia, near the meeting place of Asia and Europe. The other lies in Western Britain, close to the Atlantic edge of Europe. The distance between them is thousands of miles. That spread suggests dogs were already traveling with human groups, or at least appearing in different human landscapes during the late Ice Age. The timing also changes the emotional shape of the story. The first dogs were likely not born from quiet farmyards filled with sheep pens, grain stores, and permanent fences. Their first human world was more mobile. People carried stone blades, scrapers, bone tools, hides, fire-making materials, and food from place to place. A camp might last days, weeks, or a season, depending on water, weather, and animals nearby. When resources shifted, the people moved. A dog living beside them had to move too. That kind of life favored different traits than village life. A camp dog needed stamina. It needed enough caution to survive dangerous landscapes and enough trust to stay near humans. It had to follow movement, understand routine, and feed from whatever the group could spare. Around one camp, there might be reindeer bones. At another, fish remains near a river. Farther south, people might leave hare, wild goat, or plant foods cooked in ash. The early dog's world changed with the human trail. This makes dogs unusual among domestic animals. Cattle, sheep, goats, and pigs became deeply tied to farming communities. Their domestication followed the rise of food production and managed herds. Dogs seem to have entered human life earlier, when people were still hunters, gatherers, trackers, toolmakers, and travelers. That means the first role of dogs was shaped by motion. They belonged to a world of paths, camps, snow, bones, smoke, and changing seasons. A dog could help by noticing movement in the dark. It could follow scent across ground too faint for human senses. It could warn when another animal approached camp. It could clean scraps that would otherwise attract other scavengers. It could rest near people and share body warmth during cold nights. The oldest dogs were companions of movement before they became animals of settled homes. Their story begins with people walking across Ice Age ground and with animals that learned to keep pace close enough to matter. Keeping pace with people changed what an early dog could become. A mobile hunter-gatherer camp was a busy place, even when it was temporary. There might be a hearth built from stones, a patch of packed ground where hides were scraped, and a place where bones were cracked for marrow. People carried what they needed because every extra weight mattered. Stone blades, antler points, needles made from bone, animal skins, and dried food all had to move when the group moved. A dog that lived near this world had to understand motion. It had to leave when the camp left. It had to follow through cold mornings, river crossings, open grassland, and forest edges. Its value may have started with simple things. A dog could smell what humans could not. The inside of a dog's nose is lined with a large surface of scent-detecting tissue. Many dogs have hundreds of millions of scent receptors, while humans have only a small fraction of that number. A receptor is a tiny part of a cell that responds to a signal, like a scent molecule in the air. That means a dog can read the ground in a way people cannot. A faint trail from an injured reindeer, a fox moving near camp, or a carcass hidden beyond a ridge could all leave traces in scent. For hunter-gatherers, that ability could matter. A tracked animal meant food, hide, bone, sinew, and fat. Sinew, the tough connective tissue from tendons, could be dried and used like thread. Bone could become needles, points, handles, or tools. Fat could provide dense energy during cold seasons. A dog that helped humans notice these resources would be more than a scavenger at the edge of camp. It would become part of the search. Sound created another advantage. Dogs can hear higher frequencies than humans, reaching sounds well above the range of ordinary human hearing. A small animal moving near a shelter, a stranger approaching through brush, or a large predator shifting at the edge of darkness might reach a dog's ears first. A bark in the night could give people time to wake, lift a tool, feed the fire, or pull children closer. Even a few seconds of warning can matter in a dangerous landscape. Early dogs may also have helped keep camps cleaner. Bones, scraps, and old food attract scavengers. Foxes, hyenas in some Ice Age regions, ravens, and other wolves could all be drawn toward the smell of leftovers. A dog feeding on waste near camp reduced some of that smell and turned discarded food into energy. This was useful for the dog, and useful for people who wanted fewer dangerous visitors after dark. Warmth mattered too. A dog's normal body temperature is around 38 to 39 degrees Celsius. On a cold night, that warm body lying near a person could make a small difference. People in the Ice Age used fire, hides, shelters, and shared body heat to survive difficult weather. A dog curled near a sleeping place would add warmth, sound, scent, and alertness to the human space. At first, these benefits may have been practical. The animal followed. The animal warned. The animal cleaned scraps. The animal helped locate things hidden from human senses. Repeated closeness can quietly change meaning. A dog that sleeps near people becomes familiar. A dog that returns after a hunt becomes expected. A dog that follows children, waits near a fire, or recognizes a family's routine begins to belong to the rhythm of the group. Later, farm dogs would often guard fixed homes, barns, fields, and livestock. Their world had fences, paths worn into the same ground, and animals kept in human care. The earliest dogs likely lived in a looser world. Their homes were carried in movement. Their territory changed with seasons. Their place beside humans was tested each time the group packed tools and left old ashes behind. That makes their bond feel even more remarkable. They stayed close without permanent walls. They learned human life before villages gave life a fixed shape. A useful animal can remain only useful for a while. With enough shared nights, enough trails, and enough returns to the fire, usefulness can soften into recognition. The ground begins to hold more than tracks. It begins to hold signs of attachment, and some ancient dogs were eventually treated in ways that suggest humans saw more than a helper walking beside them. Signs of attachment can remain in the ground long after voices, footsteps, and fires have faded. Bone is one of the few materials that can survive for thousands of years. Soft fur disappears. Breath disappears. Most shelters, food scraps, and tracks vanish under weather and time. Burials can hold a clearer message because they show deliberate human action. A body placed carefully in the earth takes effort. A pit must be made. The remains must be arranged. Sometimes objects are added nearby, such as tools, ornaments, animal parts, or pigments like red ochre. Red ochre is a natural iron-rich mineral that can be ground into a reddish powder. Many Ice Age and Stone Age peoples used it in symbolic ways, including in burials. When dogs appear in these settings, the meaning begins to deepen. One of the most famous early examples comes from Bonn Oberkassel in Germany. In 1914, workers found ancient remains in a quarry near the Rhine River. The burial included 2 human adults and a young dog. The site dates to around 14,200 years ago, near the end of the last Ice Age. That makes the Bonn Oberkassel dog one of the oldest widely accepted examples of a domestic dog placed in a human burial. The animal was young, likely still a puppy or adolescent. Its presence near human remains suggests a relationship that had already moved beyond simple scavenging. A camp follower might eat near people. A useful animal might help track, warn, or clean scraps. A buried animal required human attention after death. That detail matters. Burial does not happen by accident. The dog was placed into a human space of care, memory, and ritual. Even more striking, studies of the Bonn Oberkassel dog suggest it may have been sick for weeks before it died. Its teeth show signs linked to canine distemper, a serious viral disease that can affect the lungs, stomach, nerves, and developing teeth. A sick young animal would have struggled to survive without help. It may have needed food, warmth, protection, and patience from the people around it. That possibility adds a quiet human weight to the bones. A dog with no practical use during illness may still have been kept alive because it mattered to the group. Another powerful example comes from the Natufian culture of the Eastern Mediterranean. The Natufians lived roughly between 15,000 and 11,500 years ago, before full farming spread through the region. At a site often called Ain Malaha, in what is now northern Israel, archaeologists found the burial of an older human with a puppy. The human hand was positioned close to the young dog. The site is around 12,000 years old. That small placement is easy to picture. A hand near a small body. A puppy tucked into the same grave space. The gesture cannot tell us exactly what the person felt. Archaeology rarely gives perfect access to emotion. Still, the arrangement suggests closeness, and closeness was becoming part of the dog's place in human life. Later, Mesolithic sites in Europe also show dogs treated with care. At Skatholm, in southern Sweden, dogs were buried in a coastal community around 7,000 years ago. Some were placed in their own graves. Some received grave goods, meaning objects placed with the dead. These later burials show that once dogs had entered human life, their social meaning could become strong and lasting. They could be hunters, guards, companions, and symbolic beings at the same time. The comparison is gentle but important. A working animal may be valued while it lives. A buried companion is remembered after it dies. That shift tells us something about the human side of domestication. Dogs were changing in body and behavior, while humans were changing in response to them. People began making room for dogs in daily life. Then, in some places, they made room for them in death. The ancient bones do not speak loudly. They rest in caves, river valleys, limestone soil, and old settlements. Yet they carry a steady message. By the late Ice Age and the centuries that followed, some dogs had become socially important enough to be placed beside humans with care. The partnership had moved inward, from the edge of camp toward the emotional center of the group. Usefulness had opened the path. Attachment was beginning to leave its own mark in the earth. Attachment changed the partnership from the inside. A dog buried near a human body leaves one kind of evidence. A living dog looking into a human face leaves another. The emotional bond between people and dogs may be one of the oldest domestic bonds humans ever formed with another animal. Sheep, goats, pigs, and cattle later became deeply important to human life. They gave meat, milk, hides, wool, bone, labor, and stored wealth. Their value was enormous, especially after farming spread. Dogs seem to have entered human life earlier through a different doorway. They came close while people were still moving across Ice Age ground. They watched camp routines. They followed trails. They slept near human warmth. That early closeness gave the relationship a personal quality that many later domestic animals did not share in the same way. A goat might be herded. A cow might be milked. A sheep might be shorn for wool. A dog could lie beside a person, respond to a voice, and look back when spoken to. That difference reaches into the body. When humans and dogs interact calmly, both can show changes in a hormone called oxytocin. A hormone is a chemical messenger that travels through the blood and helps the body coordinate feelings, growth, stress, and social behavior. Oxytocin is often linked with bonding. In humans, it plays a role in childbirth, nursing, touch, trust, and attachment. It is sometimes called a bonding hormone, though its effects are complex and depend on the situation. Studies of dogs and humans have found that gentle eye contact, petting, and familiar interaction can raise oxytocin levels in both species. This creates a feedback loop. A feedback loop means one action encourages a response, and that response strengthens the first action. A dog looks at a familiar person. The person softens, speaks gently, or reaches down. The dog receives attention and may continue the gaze. The shared moment can make both bodies respond, as if they are inside a social bond. This is unusual because direct eye contact between many animals can feel threatening. Among wolves, a hard stare can create tension. Among dogs and humans, a soft gaze often creates closeness. Domestication seems to have turned an old canid signal into a new kind of bridge. Touch added another layer. Human hands did more than throw scraps or point toward food. They could stroke fur, remove burrs, lift a pup, check an injury, or guide an animal away from danger. Dogs became highly responsive to that contact. A slow hand along the back can lower arousal in many familiar dogs. A scratch behind the ear can make the body lean closer. A calm voice can change the rhythm of movement. These small exchanges are ordinary today, yet they are built on a long history of trust. The bond also worked through daily rhythm. Dogs learned when people woke. They learned the smell of cooking. They learned the sound of tools being packed. They learned which humans were safe, which children dropped food, and which paths led back to camp. Humans learned the dog signals in return. A lifted head at night could mean something moved beyond the firelight. A low growl could point toward danger. A wagging body could signal recognition. A tired animal returning from a trail could mean the group had traveled hard and far. Over time, the dog became part of human expectation. Its absence could be noticed. Its return could bring relief. This emotional place would have helped dogs travel with people. An animal valued only for food can be left behind when conditions change. A companion that warns, follows, sleeps close, and recognizes the group becomes harder to abandon. That is one reason dogs could move through so many landscapes with humans. The bond was practical, yet it also carried feeling. It lived in shared warmth, repeated eye contact, familiar footsteps, and the quiet safety of being known. By the time people crossed rivers, coastlines, forests, tundra, and mountain passes, dogs were more than animals near the camp edge. They had become carriers of shared history. Where humans traveled, dogs could travel too, leaving traces of those journeys in bones, behavior, and DNA. The record inside DNA shows that dogs did not stay in one corner of the world. Once the bond became strong enough for dogs to travel with people, their history began spreading across huge distances. A human group could carry stone blades, fire-making tools, sewn clothing, and knowledge of the land. A dog carried something quieter inside its body. It carried DNA. DNA is the long instruction code found in living cells. It helps shape the body, and it passes from parents to young. When a dog died, small pieces of that code could sometimes remain protected inside teeth or dense bone for thousands of years. Ancient DNA is usually damaged and broken into tiny fragments. Cold places preserve it best because low temperatures slow the chemical decay. Archaeologists and geneticists can study those fragments and compare them with DNA from other ancient and modern dogs. The result is like following faint footprints through time. A tooth from one site can show kinship with dogs from another region. A bone from a cold cave can reveal that one dog population was replaced by another. A skull found near a human settlement can show contact between groups that lived far apart. This is why dogs are so useful for studying human movement. They traveled with people closely enough that their genes often reflect human journeys. By the late Ice Age, early dogs were already present in parts of Western Eurasia. Over the millennia that followed, they moved through forests, river valleys, grasslands, coastlines, and northern cold zones. In Siberia, ancient dog remains show how important dogs became in harsh climates. By around 9,500 years ago, people in Arctic and subarctic regions were using dogs in ways connected to transport and survival. On Jokov Island, far north in the Siberian Arctic, dog remains suggest animals that may have been managed for sled pulling. That kind of life required strength, endurance, thick coats, and trust between people and animals in extreme cold. A sled dog does more than move a load. It reads snow, follows a team, listens to human cues, and keeps working when the air itself feels sharp. Dogs eventually reached the Americas as well. The first dogs in the Americas likely came with people from Northeast Asia. During parts of the Ice Age, sea level was much lower because so much water was locked in glaciers. This exposed the land bridge known as Beringia, connecting Siberia and Alaska. Beringia was not a narrow bridge like a modern road. It was a broad region of cold steppe, with grasses, shrubs, animals, winds, and human routes across it. People moved through this northern world over many generations. Dogs appear to have traveled with them. Ancient dog remains in North America show that dogs were present there at least by around 10,000 years ago. Some of the early examples come from places such as Costa and Stillwell in Illinois, where dogs were buried by people. Those burials suggest that by the time dogs were well established in the Americas, they already held social value there too. Their DNA also reveals a more complicated story. Many ancient American dogs belonged to lineages that were later reduced or replaced after European contact. Lineages are family lines traced through ancestry. When Europeans arrived with their own dogs, new diseases, new breeding, and new colonial settlements changed the dog populations of the Americas. In many places, older indigenous dog lines faded. Some traces still appear in special cases, including Arctic dogs with deep northern ancestry. The dog record, then, carries both movement and loss. It shows migration across ancient land routes. It shows contact between cultures. It shows replacement when new human histories overtook older ones. Through all of this, dogs remain close to the human trail. A family moving across a cold river might carry tools wrapped in hide. A dog walking beside them carried a genetic record no one could see. That record would pass into pups, then into the pups after them. Every landscape added its own pressure. Cold favored thick coats and strong bodies. Open hunting grounds favored speed and scent. Settled villages favored guarding, scavenging, and staying near home. The single ancient partnership began to branch. As dogs entered new climates and new human cultures, They became many answers to many different needs. As dogs entered new climates and human cultures, their bodies began answering local problems. A dog in the Arctic needed a different body from a dog chasing gazelle across dry open land. A dog guarding sheep in mountain country needed a different temperament from a dog sleeping near a cooking fire in a village. For most of dog history, people did not think in terms of modern breeds with fixed names and written standards. They cared about what a dog could do. Could it pull? Could it track? Could it guard? Could it stay near the herd without harming it? Could it find game in grass, snow, forest, or desert? Work and weather became quiet sculptors. In the far north, dogs faced cold that could freeze water, stiffen leather, and turn breath into clouds. Sled dogs developed bodies suited for long travel in snow. Their coats often had 2 layers. The outer guard hairs helped shed snow and moisture. The softer undercoat trapped warm air close to the skin. Their paws had to handle ice and hard-packed trails. Their bodies needed endurance more than short bursts of speed. In Arctic and subarctic places, including Siberia, Greenland, Alaska, and northern Canada, dogs helped people move across landscapes where walking with heavy loads could be slow and dangerous. A team of dogs could pull sleds carrying meat, tools, hides, firewood, or people. That work demanded cooperation between animals, because one dog alone could not do what a team could do together. A good sled dog had to keep moving, listen to cues, and tolerate close work with other dogs in bitter weather. Open hunting country shaped dogs in a different direction. In parts of North Africa, the Middle East, and Central Asia, people developed lean, long-legged hunting dogs, often called sighthounds. A sighthound hunts mainly by vision and speed. The Saluki, an ancient type associated with the Middle East, is one famous example. These dogs have deep chests, narrow waists, long limbs, and flexible spines that help them stretch into fast running. A deep chest gives more room for the heart and lungs. That matters during a chase when the body needs oxygen quickly. Across open ground, a sighthound could see movement at a distance and run after fast animals such as hare, fox, or gazelle. Its shape looks almost opposite to the northern sled dog. The coat is lighter. The frame is finer. The body is built for speed. Across dry land rather than steady pulling across snow. Livestock guardians followed another path. Once humans began keeping sheep, goats, and cattle, dogs became important around herds. A guardian dog needed size, patience, confidence, and strong attachment to the animals it protected. In mountain regions and open grazing lands, predators such as wolves, bears, and large cats could threaten livestock. Dogs like the Great Pyrenees, Anatolian Shepherd, Maremma Sheepdog, and Tibetan Mastiff became associated with guarding work in different regions. Many livestock guardians are large and heavy, with thick coats that help them stay outdoors through cold nights. Their job is often calmer than chasing. They may lie near sheep for hours, watching the edge of the pasture or listening in the dark. The best guardian is not always the dog that attacks first. Often, its strength is presence. A large body, a deep bark, and a steady position near the herd can make predators choose an easier path. Other dogs were shaped around scent. Hounds that followed trails needed noses, stamina, and focus. A bloodhound, for example, has long ears and loose skin around the face. As it moves with its nose close to the ground, the ears can help stir scent particles upward, keeping smells near the muzzle. Retrievers developed softer mouths, useful for carrying birds without crushing them. Herding dogs developed quick responses to movement, strong attention to human cues, and a controlled way of pressuring livestock without scattering them. A border collie crouching low in a field shows a very different inheritance from a Malamute pulling a sled or a Saluki running across open desert. Each form reflects a human need placed inside a particular landscape. Weather-shaped coat, work-shaped muscle, human routine-shaped temperament. For thousands of years, this produced dog types more than formal breeds. A dog belonged to a task, a region, and a way of life. Over time, people began recording, naming, comparing, and choosing dogs with much narrower goals. The old working shapes would eventually enter a newer age, where appearance, identity, and human preference could reshape dogs faster than work alone ever had. The older working shapes of dogs formed slowly. For thousands of years, people mostly chose dogs by usefulness, health, temperament, and fit with local life. A herding dog had to move sheep without scattering them. A sled dog had to pull through snow with steady strength. A village dog had to stay close, notice strangers, and live peacefully around people. These were dog types more than modern breeds. A type could vary from valley to valley, village to village, or family to family. One shepherd's dog might have a rough coat and folded ears. Another might be taller, darker, or lighter, as long as it could work well. The modern breed world is much more recent. A breed is a group of dogs bred to match a written standard. A standard describes the ideal size, coat, color, head shape, movement, and temperament. This idea became especially powerful in the 19th century. In Britain, dog shows became popular during the Victorian era. One of the first modern dog shows was held in Newcastle upon Tyne in 1859. At these shows, dogs were compared in public, not only for work, but for appearance. A pointer could be judged against another pointer. A setter could be judged against another setter. The dog's body became something measured, ranked, and recorded. The Kennel Club in Britain was founded in 1873. The American Kennel Club followed in 1884. These organizations helped create stud books. A stud book is a written record of ancestry, showing which dogs produced which puppies. Once a breed stud book closed, only dogs already inside that recorded family line could produce officially recognized offspring. That changed dog evolution very quickly. For most of history, useful dogs could mix when people wanted better workers. A strong local guardian might be bred to another strong guardian nearby. A fast hunter might be crossed with another dog that had a better nose. Closed breeding lines narrowed that freedom. They made breeds more predictable. They also made each breed more separate. This is how the dog world became filled with clear, named forms. A Dachshund's long body and short legs. A Dalmatian's spotted coat. A Collie's long muzzle and flowing fur. A Chihuahua's tiny frame. A Newfoundland's heavy body and water-resistant coat. a poodle's curly hair, and bright, trainable nature. All of these shapes came from older pressures, then were sharpened by human choice. The speed of change is striking. Dogs had been living with humans for at least 14,000 years, and likely longer. Many familiar breeds, however, took their modern form during only the last few hundred years. That is a very short time in evolutionary terms. A few human generations could fix traits that natural selection would have tested much more slowly in the wild. Human preference became a strong force. People chose dogs for coat texture, ear shape, color pattern, height, face length, tail carriage, and the way the animal looked while standing still. A dog could become valuable because it matched an image in a judge's eye, a family's taste, or a breeder's plan. This created astonishing variety. The difference between a Great Dane and a Yorkshire Terrier is larger than the difference between many wild species in the same family. Both are dogs. Both belong to Canis lupus familiaris. Both can trace their deeper ancestry back to wolf-like canids. Yet one may weigh more than 100 pounds, while the other may weigh less than 7. Their bones, skulls, coats, and daily needs can feel almost like different design experiments inside the same species. Breed formation also changed identity. A dog was no longer only a helper in a landscape. It could represent a country, a household, a social class, a sport, or a personal taste. The Saint Bernard became linked with alpine rescue. The Scottish Terrier became tied to Scotland. The Corgi became famous through royal households. The German Shepherd became a symbol of disciplined work, police service, and protection. Names gathered stories around bodies. A breed could carry history in its outline. This sudden age of breeds gave humans an unmatched ability to shape dogs. It produced beauty, skill, charm, and deep loyalty in countless forms. It also showed how quickly affection and preference can guide evolution when people control the pairings. The dog's ancient flexibility made all this possible. Its body could stretch into many shapes. Its behavior could bend toward many jobs. Its face could become more and more tuned to human attention. Yet rapid shaping has a cost when the circle becomes too narrow. The same closed lines that preserve a beloved look can also hold hidden weaknesses inside them. The closed lines that preserved a beloved look also made some hidden problems easier to repeat. A gene pool is the full set of genes available within a breeding group. When the gene pool is wide, there are many versions of those genes moving through the population. When the gene pool becomes narrow, the same ancestors appear again and again in pedigrees. A pedigree is a family tree for an animal. In dog breeding, pedigrees can preserve useful traits with great care. They can also allow harmful traits to gather quietly, especially when the same few dogs are used too often. This is called the founder effect. It happens when a population begins from a small number of ancestors, so their strengths and weaknesses both become common in later generations. In wild animals, survival pressures often remove traits that make life harder. A wolf with weak joints may struggle to travel with the pack. A wolf with poor breathing may fail during a chase. A wolf with poor teeth may lose access to food. The wild is harsh, though it is also very direct. A body must work well enough to move, hunt, avoid danger, and reproduce. human selection can follow different goals. People may choose a dog because the face looks charming, the coat has a rare color, the body has a striking outline, or the head matches a written breed standard. Those choices can create beauty and consistency. They can also push a body away from its easiest shape. Short-faced breeds show one clear example. Dogs such as pugs, English bulldogs, French bulldogs, and some spaniels have shortened skulls and compressed muzzles. The term for this is brachycephalic. It means short-headed. A shortened face can make the eyes appear large and the expression seem baby-like. Inside that small space, the soft palate, nostrils, tongue, and airway still need room. The soft palate is the flexible tissue at the back of the roof of the mouth. When the airway becomes crowded, some dogs breathe noisily, snore heavily, overheat more easily, or struggle during exercise. Veterinarians call this group of problems brachycephalic obstructive airway syndrome. The name sounds complex, but the idea is simple. Air has less room to move. The dog must work harder to breathe. Other breeds face problems linked to joints. Hip dysplasia is one example. Dysplasia means abnormal development. In hip dysplasia, the ball and socket of the hip do not fit smoothly. Large breeds such as German Shepherds, Labrador Retrievers, and some Mastiff-type dogs can be prone to it. A working body depends on clean movement. When the joint is loose or poorly shaped, the body may compensate with stiffness, pain, or reduced motion over time. Long-backed, short-legged dogs can face another pressure. Dachshunds were shaped for entering burrows, with a long body and low legs, suited to underground hunting. That form is useful for a specific job. It also places stress on the spine. Some dachshunds and similar long-backed dogs are prone to intervertebral disc disease. Intervertebral discs are soft cushions between the bones of the spine. When a disc is damaged, movement can become painful and nerve signals can be affected. Skin folds create a different kind of challenge. In some heavily wrinkled breeds, folds can trap moisture and warmth. Those conditions allow irritation or infection to develop more easily. A deep fold near the nose, eyes, or tail may need regular cleaning because the body shape itself creates a small sheltered space for bacteria and yeast. None of this means human-shaped dogs are only stories of harm. Many breeds were developed with care, skill, and real affection. Countless breeders, veterinarians, and owners work hard to protect health while preserving temperament and ability. The lesson is gentler and more precise. Selection is powerful. When it follows function, movement, breathing, and resilience, stay close to the center. When it follows appearance too tightly, the body may carry the cost. The dog became the most varied mammal humans ever shaped. That variety is beautiful, strange, tender, and sometimes fragile. Even after all the sculpting, the old animal remains underneath. The nose still searches. The teeth still remember meat. The ears still wake to small sounds. The body still longs for movement, company, and signals from the group. Beneath the modern breed, beneath the collar and soft bed, something older is still breathing quietly. Something older still lives inside every dog. It is there in the teeth. An adult dog usually has 42 teeth, including sharp canines for gripping and carnassial teeth near the back for cutting. Those teeth no longer serve most dogs in the same way they served a hunting wolf, yet their shape still carries the memory of meat, bone, and survival. It is there in the nose as well. A dog's world is built heavily from scent. The damp surface of the nose helps catch odor molecules from the air. Inside the nasal passages, scent-sensitive tissue gives dogs a way of reading places long after the visible moment has passed. A footprint, a patch of grass, a sleeve, a doorway, or an old trail can hold information the human body barely notices. That ancient scent still reaches back toward the wolf-like animal moving across Ice Age ground. The wild remains in movement too. Many dogs still love to chase, stalk, dig, carry, wrestle, guard, and patrol. A terrier digging at soft earth is following an old pattern shaped around hidden animals underground. A herding dog crouching low and watching sheep is using a controlled version of predatory focus. A sled dog leaning into a harness still carries the endurance of canids built for distance. A companion dog circling before lying down may be echoing an old habit of settling a resting place. These behaviors have been softened, redirected, and shaped through human life. They remain connected to older survival tools. The social side remains just as strongly. Wolves live through group awareness. Dogs inherited that sensitivity and turned much of it toward people. A dog listens for footsteps in the hallway. It notices when a familiar person changes tone. It may rest more easily when the household is calm. It may become alert when the group feels unsettled. This need for connection is one of the deepest links between dog and wolf. The form changed across thousands of years, while the need for belonging stayed close to the center. That is why the story of dogs is best understood as transformation layered over ancestry. The old animal was never erased. Fear softened first. Some wolves could stand closer to human camps than others. Those animals gained access to bones, fat, scraps, warmth, and safer feeding opportunities. Over generations, calmer nerves made life near people easier. The body slowly followed. Faces shortened in many lines. Teeth became smaller in some dogs. Ears, tails, coats, and skull shapes became more varied. Some dogs kept puppy-like traits into adulthood, including playfulness, social openness, and a longer dependence on human contact. The face became more readable. The muscles above the eyes helped many dogs lift the inner brow, creating that familiar soft expression. The gaze changed from a guarded wild signal into a way of asking, waiting, and sharing attention. Human gestures became meaningful too. A pointed finger, a turned shoulder, a lowered hand, or a familiar voice could guide a dog's choices. The dog's own body became a signal in return. Tail movement, ear position, barking, whining, posture, and facial motion helped humans understand what the animal felt or wanted. Food changed the story from the inside. Dogs kept their canid inheritance, while many also became better at using starch from human meals. Their digestion began to reflect camp scraps, cooked foods, grain, roots, and the long history of eating near people. Then dogs traveled. They moved through Eurasia with human groups. They crossed cold northern routes toward the Americas, They entered forests, deserts, coastlines, mountains, farms, villages, courts, and homes. Work and weather shaped them into sled dogs, sighthounds, guardians, retrievers, herders, hounds, and companions. Modern breeds became the newest layer, created quickly through written standards, closed family lines, and human preference. All of that history can rest quietly in one sleeping animal. A dog curled beside a bed may look far removed from the Ice Age. Its paws may twitch in a dream. Its ears may move toward a soft sound. Its nose may lift slightly when the air changes. Yet beneath the calm breath is a long journey through cold plains, campfires, bones, human hands, shared food, and familiar voices. The dog became gentle without becoming empty of the wild. It became close without losing its deep inheritance. When a dog sleeps near a person, the scene is simple and ancient at the same time. One species rests beside another. A partnership that began in caution has become trust. A wolf-like animal that once watched from the edge of firelight now dreams safely within reach. And in that quiet nearness, the oldest promise remains. Two social creatures found a way to survive together, and the memory of that long friendship is still breathing softly in the room.